This is the morning sports desk for Thursday, February 15th, and not technically recording in the morning because Corey was out on a speaking venture earlier today.
Bill Burr has the Monday morning podcast, but he has the Monday morning podcast twice a week. So he also does it on a Thursday. This is the morning sports desk in the afternoon. It's just the same. What I'm saying is I'm comparing apples to apples, what we do to what Bill Burr does.
Yeah, exactly. All we got to do is just develop some thick Massachusetts accents, and we're in this. It's
listen here, buddy.
You can't park your car there. Yeah, exactly. Just start. We could talk NFL, and we just have to talk about the Chargers. Anyway,
Chargers.
Those are deep cut references to only people who listen to the Bill Burr podcast. So at some point today, Corey's going to say lady, except he's going to go back and go, lady. It's going to be great.
It's a lady.
Anyway, this is the morning sports desk in the afternoon. And if you say it like Troy and Abed from Community, it's the morning sports desk in the afternoon. So we got a lot of energy here. Anyway,
let's go.
Speaking of energy, it's going to have that tonight at Wadena Deer Creek because it's a boy-girl doubleheader between the Menahga Braves. We did the doubleheader earlier in the season in Menahga, where the boys for Wadena Deer Creek got the win and the Menahga girls got the win in their game. Now we're going to flip it over to Wadena tonight. And Corey, we've talked about this all the time. Doubleheaders are awesome.
Doubleheaders are awesome for all of the reasons we've ever talked about. And some of the other, we talked yesterday about I think performing in elementary schools or getting to play in front of elementary school students. There's something about being able to play in front of your fans and friends because nobody will support you more than your friends. And one of the things that's cool about small schools, I went to one, you went to one, is a lot of kids get to be involved in a lot of different things. But because of that, there is some major overlap on who can make it to what. So in these opportunities, when the boys get to watch the girls and the girls get to watch the boys and moms and dads don't have to split up to go see someone, it just gets to happen in one spot and all the siblings get to be there. The pep band maybe gets to be however that works out. It's just better. It's better. The more people that are in the gym, the better it is for everybody.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be a fun environment tonight at Wadena Deer Creek School for that. Looking in the first matchup between the girls basketball teams in Section 8AA in the Park Region Conference, where both of these teams reside, looking out for Menahga, who is 7-0 in Section 8AA play, 22-1 overall. They average 64 points a game. They average allowing 37 points. Their QRF 106.5. Menahga having another strong season. Currently the 4 seed in a very loaded top part of Section 8AA. In the Park Region Conference, blown away the competition with a 13-0 mark in PRC play. Coach Pouliou and company have those girls rolling along once again. And they haven't lost a game, Corey, since the beginning of the season. They're on a 22-game winning streak, which I can't fathom.
As a quick aside, both of these teams in Section 8AA, like you mentioned, this is an important matchup as section plays right around the corner. Also, Perham and Pelican Rapids play tonight in Pelican Rapids on the girls' basketball side of things. The top 2 teams in their conference in the HOL and the top 2 teams in Section 8AA. Interestingly, Pelican Rapids is the number 1 team in the HOL. Perham is number 2. But the Yellow Jackets are the number 1 team in the section. So this is a big night in 8AA play. You get a couple upsets or something like that on the evening, and all of a sudden that 8AA bracket starts to get closer.
it starts to get a little dicey. Things start to get a little interesting over the final for a lot of these teams, 3 games of the season. I mean, for Wadena Deer Creek, if you look at their schedule, they're a team that's been playing well as of late. I'm trying to do quick math in my head. They've won 6 of their last 7 games, including some wins over section teams like DGF and Crookston. They also had a close loss to Pillager that just snapped a 6-game losing streak, 60-48. So this is a Wolverine team that, like last year, trying to play their best basketball towards the end of the season. Very tough task in Menahga tonight. It's also the home finale for the Wadena Deer Creek girls basketball team as well. They have 2 more games after tonight. One is tomorrow night in Sabika, and then Tuesday they're at Frazee to end their regular season campaign as well. Looking over on the boys' side of things in Section 8AA, Wadena Deer Creek currently is the 6th seed in Section 8AA, and they're looking for a big section win. Currently, they're 4-2 and 14-7 overall for the Wolverines. If you look at Menahga, they're second to last in 8AA with an 8-13 mark, 0-6 in their section. But the last time these 2 teams played, Corey, they went down to the wire, and Burton for Menahga had 30-plus points, kind of put the team on his back and nearly single-handedly brought them back into the game. So no matter where these 2 teams are sitting in the standings, this game has the potential to be a really close one.
Yep. That's exactly right. They played really close. It's whatever. It's a part of a doubleheader. It's going to be competitive and fun in there. I have nothing to add. That's exactly right. Good job.
There we go. For the Wadena Deer Creek Wolverines and the Menahga Braves on the boys basketball side of things, of course, the Wolverines also trying to stay towards the top of the Park Region Conference. They have a 9-3 mark. They're trying to keep pace with Pillager for second place in the conference this season, and not too many games left on the boys side of things. Just picking off Wadena Deer Creek's schedule, they have Pelican Rapids Friday night at home, and then they have 3 more games left at Sabika, at DGF, at Parker's Prairie. So the final home games of the season for both Wadena Deer Creek boys and girls in the regular season, at least. For the Menahga boys, as their schedule starts to wrap up here as well, they play Pillager on Tuesday, Frazee next Thursday, and then Staples Motley on Friday the 23rd, and Browerville Eagle Valley on Friday, March 1st. Things are kind of slowly winding down on this regular season.
Can't wait. That means postseason's coming. It's the best.
It's here. And by the way, section wrestling, team wrestling tomorrow. So we got a ton of stuff going on. By the way, the reason we talk about this doubleheader between Wadena Deer Creek and Menahga is the fact that they're going to be on KWAD tonight, 101.7 FM and AM 920. You can also listen online worldwide, Corey, at wadenaradio.com/KWAD and click on listen to high school sports when on that page, and boom, you can listen on the World Wide Web as well. That's a 5:45 pregame. It's a 5:45 pregame and a 6 o'clock tip-off for that first game, and then we'll have basically just running coverage into the second game for 2 full-on good Park Region Conference and Section 8AA basketball games. One last thing I want to touch on before we get into our state sports is something that's just kind of near and dear to me. The last NCAA football game came out in the fall of 2013. Late summer 2013. I was entering my sophomore year at Bertha Hewitt High School, and I was ready going into my junior year for the next installment of the game until it never came, because players weren't getting paid for their image and likeness and all that, because, you couldn't have their name in the college football games, but all of a sudden, like, put to example, there's a pretty primetime quarterback for Texas A&M at the time, Johnny Manziel, or as NCAA football would like to call him, QB number 2. That's what they're just their numbers. But you could look and see, well, that's clearly Teddy Bridgewater for Louisville. That's clearly Anthony Barr and Eric Kendricks. Every single time there's a loading screen, it has a linebacker for UCLA wearing number 11. And I'm like, that's Anthony Barr. I don't know what to tell you. Like, that is him. And players are like, we're not getting paid for that, and we should be. So EA Sports stopped making the video game under threat of legal action. And now, thanks to NIL, Sure, it's opened up a whole different can of worms just for everything, potentially mess up college football. But the good thing is for me is that I get NCAA Football 25, which is coming out this fall. They just released a trailer for it today. Basically, EA Sports pushed the release back a year, and now they're coming out and saying, nope, it's happening this summer. We're putting out NCAA Football 25. And Corey, I don't know if I should be saying this on a recording while I'm at work, but you won't see me in like 2 weeks for the next 2 weeks once that game comes out. I am going to play that game hardcore.
CJ, he's in the game.
I'm in the game. The fun part about NCAA.
Who's the cover? Who's on the cover?
They haven't announced that yet. And it's interesting to see because before the cover athlete was always a senior who already graduated. So they could accept money for their name, image, and likeness. So it'd always be like a graduated senior, somebody who's in the NFL. Now it'll be interesting if like, for the sake of the Gophers, who's the running back? Chris Taylor, that really good freshman. Let's like now theoretically he could be on the cover, or some other big time
Right.
Quinn Ewers, the quarterback for Texas, Arch Manning, or something like that, can be on the cover despite still being in college football. That remains to be seen. Or if they'll just do like Caleb Williams, because theoretically, if there were still games going on in the old way, he would have done that. But like the year after LSU won, Joe Burrow would have definitely been on the cover of the game. Or Justin Jefferson or something like that.
Right.
So the thing I love about those games is just taking a random school that's a mid-major or even like a non-conference school and turning them into a national powerhouse. So my team on NCAA 14, they're no longer in the FBS. They relegated themselves down to the FCS because they just wanted to be more competitive. The University of Idaho Vandals in Moscow, Idaho, with the Kibbe Dome, that was my team. Mm-hmm. Every single time I'd pick them and I'd, play with them for a couple of years, build the program up, you recruit, you take it slow. And then all of a sudden you just merge yourself into the Big 12 because you can do custom conferences. And then boom, you have a national powerhouse in Moscow, Idaho. The Akron Zips, the North Texas Mean Green, the USF Bulls. There's just a ton of ways that you could take these random schools. And then eventually you get bored with it. And then you pick being like the head coach of Alabama or something. And then you just win national titles every single year. I know that you're not in a position in your life to spend like 6 hours a day playing video games. But if you could, what team would you start a dynasty with, Corey?
Oh, I mean, it's fun to pick. Like a directional school, like a directional state school. Like a Louisiana Tech or something like that.
Middle Tennessee.
Fordham would be, just someone who like, do they even have football? Like one of those schools. Does UConn even have football? Let's pick them. That's a fun way to do it. But this is where I am not very interesting. Like I would just pick the Gophers. I would just pick the University of Minnesota. Let's get after it because I want to see a Big Ten championship, and that might be the only way I ever get a chance to see it.
The Gophers win the Rose Bowl. Everybody's happy. PJ Fleck is jumping up and down. Corey shuts off his Xbox and goes to bed.
Yep.
That's how it happens.
The only thing they would need to add is to be able to chop off Brett Bielema's head with the axe.
Instead of chopping down the goalpost, Brett Bielema's tied to the goalpost, and they're just.
It doesn't matter that it doesn't matter that he's not at Wisconsin anymore. That is we're gonna Salem witch trial that guy.
Bring him back up from Champaign, Illinois, and make him.
That's right.
Make him do all that. Yeah. The funniest part of the NCAA football games, which I loved, was mascot mashup. So you could just play an exhibition game, where you pick two random schools, except all of the players, all the same skill levels. It's all the same players, but their skins are just mascots. So they just all are dressed. So my favorite is picking the Syracuse orange and watching just the big orange blobs run around the screen. The Stanford Cardinal, Goldie Gopher running around there. It's the best because it's silly and ridiculous and it's awesome. So I hope they have that.
I love everything about it. Yeah, I'll be fascinated to see who they put on the cover. It does feel like it's Caleb Williams' cover because name someone who's in college football next year. Name a player.
Well, that's the thing. Now. I had to pause for a second. I was like, there's not like the quarterback class isn't very good.
Yeah.
There's a couple players maybe here and there, but in terms of like name recognition, everybody knows who Caleb Williams is.
Right.
So,
by the way, along those lines, and I know we'll move on, but along those lines, I want to have a college men's and women's basketball conversation with you relating to that little sneak peek of a conversation about can you name people? So we can save that one for tomorrow. That can be a little tease, but I know we need to move on.
By the way, I hope they bring back the college basketball games. They haven't had one since 2010. It came out in the fall of 2009. You want to know who the cover athlete was for that game, Corey, in the basketball one?
Yeah, it was Adam Morrison.
No, it was Blake Griffin.
Oh, my next guess was going to be Tyler Hansborough.
If you would have guessed,
I'm not good with years. Those were the only two I could think of.
Yeah, I thought you were going to go with Ralph Sampson III or Al Nolan or something like that. Trevor Mbakwe, but
I love Trevor so much.
He coaches high school down in the Twin Cities, I think.
Yes, he does. And I can't remember who it's for, but he was like a 13-year senior.
Mm-hmm. He just always was there.
Yeah. He was older than Patino, I think, his last year.
So one last bit before we wrap up the sports desk for the day is going to be a Vikings related question. And there's a whole lot of Kirk Cousins content. We've talked about that. And there's a million different directions we can go. We've already talked about the general like gut level feeling. Should the Vikings bring it back? Should they not? And this is the thing. The Vikings, according to a recent report by Tom Pelissero, would like to extend Kirk Cousins. Now, it doesn't say price. It doesn't say whatever. It just says on a gut level, they'd like to extend Kirk Cousins. But that number might not be the number Kirk Cousins is at. And the thing is about Kirk Cousins, this is a very good offseason for him to play the market. And him and his agent are so good at leveling the field in their favor. They use all the leverage they have. They're very good at it. And there's a good chance that they get it. There's a bunch of different teams who could use the services. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the Atlanta Falcons, just a couple teams to name a few. You could even go in division. The Chicago Bears could use a quarterback. The Las Vegas Raiders could use a quarterback. The San Francisco 49ers and Kyle Shanahan, if they really want to go, if they really want to mess up the league, could bring in Kirk Cousins. Like there is a whole bunch of things that could happen. So I'm throwing aside the 49ers because a lot would have to happen for that to take place. Are the Vikings, we talk about Jefferson and Addison and Kevin O'Connell being the offensive coordinator and the good offensive line, and those things all exist. But given the salary cap situation, the way the Vikings defense is at, just need players at all three levels. Are the Vikings the best destination for Kirk Cousins, or is there a team out there that's a better fit for him?
Well, it's an interesting question because we always do look at it, right, from the Vikings perspective. We don't look at it often from the Kirk Cousins perspective. I guess to answer that question, I have some qualifying questions. Is this from the perspective of roster construction? Like are the correct pieces around him for him to succeed?
Which team gives Kirk Cousins the best chance to win now?
Okay, so that is because you could look at roster construction. You could just talk about money, which he has not been shy about chasing. So
right.
It really might just come down to that, to be fair. But the best chance to win now, is it the Vikings? Whew. Probably not.
No.
I mean, if he plays all season, do I think the Vikings make the playoffs? I'm sold. I've convinced myself that the Vikings make the playoffs. They don't miss out if he plays all year. So if the goal is to make it to the playoffs and then let the chips fall as they may from that point forward, yeah, I think so. But wouldn't you feel like vibes going into next season would be weird? Everything was weird last season about the Vikings. So you just kind of feel meh about them. Chicago feels really good about how their season ended. Green Bay feels even better than that. And Detroit is expecting to make a Super Bowl next year.
Right.
So as far as like just gut level, how do you feel? I think probably Vikings fans feel the worst about their team than any other fan base feels about their team within the division.
Right.
So does that mean they can turn it around? Yeah, I mean, I think they probably can. I think they were pretty close. But if there's other teams out, there are other teams out there who probably have a better chance to win. It just matters, like, is Atlanta closer to a Super Bowl than the Vikings are? What's your goal? What's your goal, Kirk Cousins? Is your goal a Super Bowl? Is your goal money? The Vikings, I don't think, are farther away from a Super Bowl than Atlanta is.
I think the thing with, I mean, you brought up all good points. I think the thing with the Vikings is that division is so much tougher to get into the playoffs, because not only is the path to winning the division tough, even being the second or third best team out of that division is no guarantee. The Bears are going to take Caleb Williams this year, it feels like, and they're going to have a lot of salary to build around him. And that defense was starting to get sneaky decent once they traded for Montez Sweat. So you got a division that a year ago is a lot different in terms of vibes, whereas the NFC South, that thing's wide open for you to win. If you're the Falcons, they should have won it last year and they didn't even have a quarterback. So if you plug in Kirk Cousins, a defense that was already good in Atlanta with a defensive minded head coach, you plug in Kirk Cousins, that's a team that all they have to do is win 9 games, and Kirk Cousins can win you 9 games and you're into the postseason. If you look at Pittsburgh, the defense is good. The structure is there. Now Arthur Smith is your offensive coordinator and your wide receivers are head cases. That's a little different. Obviously, the 49ers are the golden goose. Las Vegas, do you want to go there? But again, you have a head coach who seemed to do well and the players like him, but again, is still unproven. You have Devontae Adams there to throw to, though, but you're also in a division with Patrick Mahomes and Jim Harbaugh coaching the Chargers and all that kind of stuff.
Sean Payton coaching the Broncos. Don't go to the AFC West.
Yeah, that's going to be the tough part. Now, could he go like to the Tennessee Titans or something? They're in a rebuild mode, so they're probably not going to do that. But there are a few different avenues, and I'm sure that there's another quarterback needy team that I'm not thinking about off the top of my head. But I think New England, yes, exactly. They had some pieces on that defense. Their offense is just so horrid, it's tough to judge. Kirk Cousins can bring you stability. He raises your floor. And if you're the Patriots, and that
draft Marvin Harrison and have Kirk throw to him.
Right, exactly. They have some things going on there, and that division. I know the Bills are still there, but I mean, the Dolphins are there? They can hang around, but the Jets are there. I mean, it depends on how you view the Bills and if they're going to regress or if they're going to kind of stick around their current level. That's not a bad division either. And I don't know. My thing is when you add up all those teams, I feel like the Falcons are the best if Kirk Cousins, they have salary space because they are not paying a quarterback. They don't really have any big time contracts. They have the money to go sign Kirk Cousins and pay him whatever he wants. They also have the easiest path to getting into the postseason, and they have a good defense. And they have Kyle Pitts. They have Drake London. They have a couple pieces on that roster. They have, what was the name of the running back they drafted, but never Jonnu Smith? No, Jonnu Smith is running back. Who was the running back from Texas that they drafted and they just refused to use? So I can't even remember his
Ricky
name.
Williams.
Yes.
Cedric Benson.
Yes, exactly. Those are the names I was thinking of. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yes, whatever that guy's name was. Yeah, they didn't use him.
John Robinson. That's his name.
If he goes to Atlanta, I will have to, for the 90th year in a row, regrettably draft Kyle Pitts to my fantasy football team and watch him dismantle my fantasy football team for another season.
Yeah,
gosh dang it.
So it's not to say the Vikings can't re-sign Kirk or they shouldn't re-sign Kirk or whatever.
Yes.
It's just, I think that there's a belief that plugging in Kirk Cousins, the Vikings are going to win 10 games next year. And the defense just isn't there. And the Vikings would have made the playoffs last year with Kirk Cousins. They would have.
Absolutely.
But they would not have been Super Bowl contenders by any stretch because at the end of the year, that defense fell off. And I know part of it's because the offense was bad, but the defense ran out of gas. Like they just weren't that talented, and Flores did a good job masking those flaws, but eventually you just can't, the little engine that couldn't anymore. And with that defense, you had Danielle Hunter. So there's some things that they got to figure out. Plugging back in Kirk Cousins just doesn't mean that you're going to be successful again next year. Now, it solves the most important position on the field, but it doesn't guarantee that all of a sudden you're going to be a 10-win team that's competing for a division and a Super Bowl. So I would say that the Vikings aren't even, if I'm Kirk Cousins' agent, this is a good play to say, look, Kirk loves you guys. He likes it'd be his third year with the same coach and play caller. Never really had that in his career. But he could also say the Falcons are in a much better position to win right now. And they're giving us a call every single day. So if you're not willing to pay us X amount of dollars, this is the thing. If Kirk Cousins doesn't want to take that hometown discount, it makes it very tough for the Vikings to try and justify spending $40 to $45 million a year on the quarterback position when you have to re-sign Jefferson. And I know you can, but you're just hampering the rest of your roster construction.
It's going to depend, and this is going to sound like I'm ragging on Cousins a little bit, but it kind of depends on what he actually thinks about himself and his understanding in the entire echelon of NFL quarterbacks. Does he think of himself as an all-time great? I mean this respectfully. Is he delusional enough that way? Which you need to have that, whatever it is in you that drives you to do it, to be at that level. Does he think he is one of the all-time greats? Does he feel like he needs a Super Bowl to justify his entire career? It's a different sport, but Spencer Dinwiddie one time in the NBA said, I don't need to ring chase. I'm not LeBron James, where my entire career is justified on how many wins I have, where people are going to constantly compare me to Michael Jordan. He's like, I'm Spencer Dinwiddie. I've got kids and I've got family and I've got my kids' kids someday that I need to be able to take care of for as long as possible. So does Kirk Cousins need to justify his career with a Super Bowl, or does he just want to be able to compete at the best possible level? And if he wins one, sweet. I don't mean that as he's not good enough to win a Super Bowl. I don't mean that as a criticism of his ability. But that is, does he understand that? Does he think he's Tom Brady and he just hasn't had the chance to prove it yet? Or does he think I'm Kirk Cousins and I couldn't have asked more out of my career than I'm possibly getting? Those, it's that sort of it's those sorts of hypotheticals. If he thinks he needs to justify his career with a Super Bowl and be like Karl Malone and chase to the Lakers at the end of his career, then he's gone. And it'd be hard to blame him for that too.
Well, I think Kirk's somewhere in the middle with that, because if you remember the quarterback show, he still has a spot in his house that's set aside for a Lombardi trophy to be in there, or like some kind of thing to symbolize the Super Bowl victory. So in his mind, he thinks he's capable of doing it. I think he's self-aware enough to know he's not Tom Brady. Like, he seems like a pretty self-aware guy, but the ego, you still have to have some kind of an ego. Otherwise you wouldn't be one of the top 10 quarterbacks, top 15 quarterbacks in the league, depending on where you rank him. Obviously thinks he can win one.
Capable.
And that's the thing. He's
yes.
capable.
He's absolutely capable to be the quarterback. You telling me he couldn't have been San Francisco's quarterback this season?
I think if you give Kyle 100%. Shanahan truth serum, I think he would love to have Kirk Cousins.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, we could go in circles on this, but I think the biggest thing is just when Vikings fans act like Kirk coming back to the Vikings is the best play for Kirk. It's the best play for Kirk in terms of longevity and continuity, but in terms of winning right now in the year of our Lord 2024, it's not an open and shut case for the Minnesota Vikings.
Correct. I totally agree.
I don't know. This has been the Morning Sports Desk for Thursday, February